Who said because you're an adult you shouldn't be allowed to watch animated movies? Because I completely disagree. Thank you for clicking on the video. Today we will be talking about SWAT. Now, there will be spoilers, so if you don't like spoilers, you should jump off of here, go watch the movie, it's on Netflix, and then come back here and continue on watching. But if you don't care, we move on. So, I want to start out by saying, like, this is such a random thing that I want to say. But at the beginning of the movie, Ali says, you know the saying that curiosity killed the cat? Well, I don't know what a cat is. And it continues, like, boy, how did you hear this saying to begin with? Like, I feel like nobody in this valley should know what a cat is. How did you hear this saying? I need to know that. But yeah, that was such a random thing that I found so funny. But yeah, since we're talking about the beginning of the movie, we should, just go from there, right? And at the beginning, we get the backstory of the firewolf and how and why the Pukus are so reserved, right? And I find that story interesting because while we were seeing the backstory, we saw every animal, well, every creature. I'm going to say it that way. We see every creature in the valley except for the Puku, which is a little weird to me because it's like they start off the story because I think the grandmother and the dad was telling the story at the same time, but they start out by saying like the Pukus lived with the other animals. Now they did say that they was also in fear, so I'm thinking like maybe they weren't shown because they were hiding, right? Like we see that after the Javans come onto their land that they are underground on their island. So maybe they were hiding, but also I was like because they have the snouts that they can smell when danger is around or whatever. And so I was like, maybe they smelled the firewolf coming and went into hiding, and maybe that's why they're not in the flashback scene. I don't know. They're a little weird. And like, the Pukus in general are a little weird because I don't understand exactly what they are. Like when you watch it, you can see what every little thing is supposed to be a representation of and how it makes sense. The Pukus don't really resemble anything that's around them. I thought they was probably like some type of chipmunks, but I know what chipmunks was like, and they don't really have that type of resemblance of a chipmunk. Now every creature keeps calling them rats, which how do y'all know what a rat is? But that's the other thing. But also I was like maybe there's some type of groundhog, you know what I mean? But there's no real understanding of what they are. Like when you look at the Javan, they represent like, well, they look similar to a particular type of leaf when they are in a certain form, and then even the lily pads are like stingrays, and there's this yellow golden leaf in the water, and the wolves are like a bush, and the deer are like tree. A lot of the animals are like different trees, which I find very interesting. I feel like they really was showing that connection to Earth, like the planet itself. And I feel like that was definitely not by coincidence. But also within that little thing about how confusing it is on exactly what the Puku is, the other creatures around the valley don't know what the heck the Pukus are. Like they don't even know of their existence. When Ivy meets Ali when they're older, she literally doesn't know what he's talking about. Now they think that he was concussed because she almost drowned him. She knocked his head over large rocks and boulders, and so they was like, oh, you just insane talking about Puku this, Puku that, we don't know what you're talking about. They had no idea what this species is. And I was thinking like it is one of two things. One, y'all are out of place in general, or y'all spend so much time hiding from all of these other creatures that it's been so long since they've seen y'all that they don't even know that y'all exist. Like, they didn't even know the name. And you see that these different creatures know the names of the other creatures around. But nobody knew what the Puku was. They didn't know the name of them. They didn't even, like, believe in the existence. Now, Ivy, she, interacts with Ollie when they are kids. Like, we get that backstory of why these Javins are even on Puku Island and stealing all of their food, right? We see that she was very grateful to Ollie, but she didn't know that he was a Puku, right? And unfortunately, like, even though she was grateful and very happy that he helped her learn to eat, she did what anyone would do in that situation when your people is literally on the brink of death. And she called out to her people and like, hey, we got food here. This little thing helped me eat this, and she showed them how to eat it, and then they took over the island. Unfortunately, with them doing that, even though they were grateful for that, and she literally says the story. She tells Ollie about when she met him, not knowing that she's talking to the person, the being that helped her when she was younger, and she literally says how grateful she is. Unfortunately, they're not looking at how dangerous they are. They're not looking at the predicament they're putting these other species in by stealing their food, right? So it's like you're not realizing the damage that you're causing, even though that's what saved your people. Because Ali even says to her, like, she tells him, yeah, I'm in charge of getting the Javin fattened up for the winter. And he's like, you gotta get your people fattened up. Me and my people about to die this winter. So yeah, y'all real lucky y'all. Thanks. You know what I mean? He was very upset, but we see that over the course of the film, like, she does feel bad for that, and like she even admits, like, well, I didn't know that we caused you that much pain, and she even apologizes, and they end up fixing their mistakes, which is a good thing. Little side note, while I'm talking about Ollie and Ivy, towards a certain point in the movie, after Boogle turns into a firewolf, he messes Ivy up because she tries to turn into something that could combat him, and he like gets a hold of her and tosses her aside. This girl's on the brink of death. Yeah, she on the brink of death, and Ollie. He like, oh, I'm gonna take you up to Javin Rock. They gonna fix you right up. It took that boy 3 to 4 days to get up to that rock. How the heck did she stay alive long enough? Like, and also the medicine up there, impeccable, because she was supposed to be dead. I don't know how the heck she survived them. And then, like, he almost fell multiple times. Like, the jerks of almost falling and stuff didn't make your condition worse. Okay, like she got up there, and then he woke up because he had passed out when he got up there, which understandable. He woke up and she's just perfectly fine. Like, girl, wasn't you just about to die? Like, how? What y'all got up there that's so magical that y'all still even own Puku Island? If y'all got stuff like that, nah, crazy. Now, speaking of Boogle, I noticed, first and foremost, so we know that Boogle is the fire wolf, but we never actually get his real name. And I say that because Boogle lies about what his name is to Ollie. When Ollie first is asking him about the pod, he's like, oh yeah, I've seen the pods, you gotta go over there. As Ollie's leaving, he was like, what was your name? And he said Boogle. But that's the type of fish that he was. That was not his name. He was a Boogle fish. And I feel like he did that on purpose. Now, also, I want to mention, this guy, he was able to tell them where all of these pods were, which I feel like it was because, which I don't even think it's I feel like. I think this is just like what was a part of the plot, to be honest. He was definitely looking for those pods for himself. He said that he was stuck as the booglefish, so which means he was swimming around trying to get to them, but where they were actually at, like, he could see them, but because of the form that he was in, he could not reach them. And they didn't even realize that, like, the question never came up for Ollie or Ivy. Why do you know where all these pies are? And then even when they were the mega fish, he was like, when Ollie tried to go up by himself, Boogle says, oh yeah, I tried that. Always failed. Why are you trying to get to the pods? You see what I'm saying? Like, it was there from the start, And then also I feel like Boogle probably had always plotted against Ollie. Mind you, he saw Ollie when he was a kid. Now, he was pretending to be a little dumb, but I think he did remember Ollie. He remembered that there was this curious little Puku in the water, and I don't think that he was trying to eat him. Like, obviously the dad thought that he was trying to eat him, but I think he was trying to talk to him, because he probably was like, well, why else would a Puku be down here unless it can also, communicate? So I think Boogle was actually just trying to talk to Ollie in that moment, and it just looked creepier than what it is. But I think in that moment he was like, okay, there's a curious Puku around here. Maybe I can convince this little guy to help me at some point, right? And eventually that's probably why he says his name is Boogle, because we see when they go to the wolf's den. Also, I feel like he purposely was talking slow. You see that Ollie and Ivy are frantic about this situation, and instead of saying, yeah, there's another zoo over there, but also it's a wolf's den, he was so slow to tell that part. And then when you finally get to the point of going to say it, they was already gone, because they're frantic and they're scared and they're trying to get back to who they are, and I definitely feel like that was also on purpose. But while they're in the wolf den, he pretends to be bait. Now, you pretend to be bait long enough for them to get near the pod, and then you dip off, and the wolves come back into the den and they call for you for help. And because you told them that your name is Boogle, they're yelling Boogle, and they both hit the pot and turn into Booglefish. That was such on purpose. Like, I feel like that was such on purpose. Another thing that I found weird was, where was the other Booglefish? Why was he the only one? Now, mind you, he said he had been alone for a while. Like, what happened to it? And it's not, there had to have been other Booglefish, right? Because Ivy even knew about Booglefish. See, she didn't know about Puku, but she knew about the fish. So there had to be other fish at some point. Why is this firewolf the only Boogle in the water? Where is the other Boogles at? You know what I mean? It was a weird. It didn't make sense that he was the only one in there. And it makes me wonder, like, well, did he eat the other ones? Like, not as a Booglefish, but, like, as a firewolf? I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I have questions. But even if there was a different creature that was eating it, he made sure he wasn't getting ate, because, he was still there. It was a little weird that he was the only one there, And, that leads me into the topic of how he even was the Booglefish, the zoo. So, I have a couple of theories about the zoo. I think when it comes to the pods, you don't actually have to change into a different animal to use the pod. I think the pods are just a way to be able to understand one another, because even after Ivy and Ollie turn back into their respective creatures, they are still able to understand everybody. So once you touch the pod, and when you look at the pod is like this thing with like a bunch of little specks of light inside of it. And I think that that's all the languages of all the species around them. So if they were to touch the pod and say exactly what they are, they would stay the type of creature that they are while gaining the ability to understand one another. I think that's all it was. I also believe that the Zou are telepathic for a couple of reasons. One, we don't see them speak in any capacity, but not just that. We see that all of the Zou are connected through these vines. Because even the dead Zou, even the ones that had no more movement to them, still was connected to them, because Ali was able to go into the pit that he fell into earlier and hold on to the cords and communicate to the other Zou, and they was able to send him an extra pod. So while it does have the ability to change you into other creatures, I do definitely think it's just a communication thing, and it just has extra powers to it. And so I think the reason why they don't talk is because they use those cords to just be, they're interlinked through the cords, right? And they reminded me so much of like neurons. And we'll get, actually, we can get into it now. It reminded me of neurons, and I don't know what you all believe, but I know that telepathy is a very much so real thing. And it reminds me, the movie, I kept like thinking of it in a person type of way, like the people type way. And I thought of it in a more today's times, in a very material, physical way. And also I thought of it in a very spiritual way as I was watching this movie. And so I'll put it this way: when I was thinking of it in the physical way, I was thinking Firewolf, government, every other being in the valley, us people, you know what I mean? And then as a spiritual way, just in general, like the interconnectedness, being able to communicate. Like once you can understand one another's energy, you can understand each other. You don't even have to use words, right? And one of the things that keeps us infighting amongst everyone around the world is language barriers. And that's what was going on in the movie. Like these people, like these creatures couldn't understand one another until they touched the pods. Then they was like, oh, now I can understand you, right? Then they became more connected, and they were able to build something at the end with one another, instead of feeling fear from one another and either not trusting each other, or just wanting to stay away from one another. They was able to build together, right? And so just imagine if we didn't have the language barriers that we have in today's time, like what we could do as the people. Take out the government, because the governments will screw us up every single time. As the people, being connected and building together something beautiful and thriving together, like take out that language barrier. That's what I was thinking about the entire time I was watching the movie, And I know that our souls can communicate with one another, and I feel like that movie just definitely was showing that as well. Now, I want to have a couple side notes before I end this, because I pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. Ali had green eyes, and from what I saw, Ali was the only Puku with green eyes. Now, I could have been misseeing, but I'm pretty sure he was the only one with green eyes. And I think that it was a foreshadow for him turning into a Javin. He was the only Puku to ever turn into a Javin. And Javins, their main color is green. So I feel like that was just a little hint that, of what was going to be his future a little bit. It's a little, I might be looking too deep into it, but it's fun to look at small details like that. And also I liked that their size and details carried over to each creature that they were. Like, so Ivy was like a bigger Javin, and when she was a Puku, she was a bigger size Puku for what a Puku is. Like, they're all pretty small, but she was like a little bit bigger in that form. And then also when she was a buglefish. Like she had her beak, the side, like the shape of her beak, and her hair. Also, her hair carried over as a puku as well. That was so cute. I love that detail. And the same thing with Ali. Now Ali was a smaller puku, so he was a smaller Javan and a smaller buglefish, and then his hair also carried over. I thought that was such a cute and fun detail. And it was just so cool. I like that they did that. That's all I have to say. Now, I will say this as well. The movie was very good, and you should definitely check it out if you haven't yet. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel because there is so much more on the way, and I look forward to talking more with you guys. Also, feel free to leave in the comments what was your favorite part in the movie if you did watch it, or what is a theory that you came up with after watching it or something like that. You know what I mean. Until next time, bye.